Good noon, everybody. Boy, I tell you, this group makes me really feel like Grandpa, the old guy around here. My God, I'm telling you.
Just known as Carol, really well.
I've been here on this campus for 42 years now. I came here in the early 70s from Boston, so if you're having trouble with my accent, I'm saying it right, you're listening wrong. All right? But I was a police officer on campus in the early 70s, doing my graduate work down at GW. And bottom line is I got asked to give a presentation on police community relations to a criminal justice course over here, and I was offered a teaching job, and I've been teaching ever since. So I've been teaching for 37 years. I worked for NSA as a full-time counterintelligence person, so I've been teaching my forensics course for the Criminal Justice Department for the last 34 years. Two courses a semester on Monday and Wednesdays, every semester, fall, spring, summer 1, summer 2, fall, spring, summer 1, summer 2. My wife and I, when we started having children, she said, I want to stay home with the kids, and I said, okay. I was teaching for fun, now I have to do it as a job, yeah, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. I used to feel really good about myself and comfortable that I could engage students. Usually what I would do is I'd have a lecture hall of about 100 students, then I would break those 100 into groups of 25 for the crime lab. We have our crime lab in Marymount Hall, and so weeks that we did crime lab stuff, I'd break it up and do it 4 times. But almost 80% of it was in the lecture hall, really was, and 20% was just a feeling of the crime lab. Same kinds of students, mainly criminal justice students, non-science majors, learning a little bit about science, and I've always been one going up and down the aisles, engaging people, getting good questions, comments, and then about 5 or 6 years ago, I noticed that the questions were getting less and less and less. And I thought, well, maybe I've been teaching the course so long, I've integrated all the information that came from the previous questions, so that's why nobody has any questions. But that was nice, but that really wasn't the case. Things were changing. And 2 things happened that caused me to flip my classroom. One, I was giving a lecture one night and 5 students were sleeping in my classroom. I mean, out cold, gone to the wind. No, you know, some of us used to learn to sleep this way, so you don't see your eyes. These people were, you know, laying across the several chairs. So, you know, I stopped. I said, listen, the 5 of you, and you know who you are, who are sleeping, wake up, or go in the back of the room, or just get out of here, you know. And during the break, one of them came up to me and said, Professor, what's your problem with me sleeping? Now, he wasn't being disrespectful. I could tell he wasn't trying to be disrespectful. He was telling me without telling me that, hey, look it, I want to do this in my own way. I was hearing you. He even brought up his notes. He says, you want to see my notes? He says, you know, I'm getting this. It's just that I felt like doing that, and what's the problem, kind of thing. Then I had another student tell me that he had never bought a textbook in his life. He was a senior with a 3.67 grade point average, and he didn't read the book. I says, well, so I gave him a copy of the book. I said, go home and just thumb through this and tell me whether you think you might be missing something. He came back and he wasn't moved by that at all. So I just said, okay, things are changing, and I need to change it. That gentleman who slept and said, what do you know, what's your problem with me sleeping, really, you know, gave me the epiphany that I needed to say, hey, I need to do something different. So several years ago, I took a course with the Teacher Excellence, whatever it's called, and Deborah was involved in a lot of the staff here, and I learned a little bit about what a flipped classroom was and a blended learning class was. So I took my course literally, a course that was 80% lecture, 20% participation in the crime lab, and flipped it and took all of and videotaped all my classes. Anyways, I'm the first person in the criminal justice department to have done this. And when I asked to do it, they said, I thought you liked teaching, Tom. Why is it that you don't want to teach anymore? And so that was a mindset that I had to overcome in my own department, but they were okay. You know, there were various things about taking all your lectures, videotaping them, and then doing some other things. Again, I assume I don't have to define flipped classroom, but maybe I need to do. Basically, what we had the students do it at home, we now have doing in the classroom. And the things that we did in the classroom, they're doing at home. So all the things that we lecture, any videos that we might do, any kind of things that we did in the room is now created at home, which gives us more time to do other things. So this passive learning thing, that it's passive learning, if you create enough activities, this is blended, so I don't have to worry about doing all these interactive things on the computer, because most of the interactive things we do in the lab, because now it's a 50-50 balance. We used to have 7.5 hours in the lab, now we have 25 hours in the semester in the lab. Because of quizzes that I put in there, and I'll show you those in a moment. Too long, one of the things I learned is that my lectures used to be 2 hours and 45 minutes, that you don't make videos 2 hours and 45 minutes long. You need to chunk them into small segments, because they're watching them while they're waiting to get their football tickets, or hopefully not while they're driving, they're listening to you. So the 81 video clips, my course ended up to be 81 separate video clips, anywhere from 5 minutes to 35 minutes. And June used to say, you're getting them too long. There were some things that I needed to say it all together, and I didn't want it broken apart. So the longest ones I did with 35 minutes. And if you have a question or a comment, please don't wait for me for a Q&A. Just stop me and yell out, and I'll be more than happy to address it. No engagement between content and students. Because of the quizzes, every week, students have to watch certain videos and do certain readings. And they have to do a video lecture quiz and a reading quiz. They have to take the quiz prior to coming in that Monday, that week for lab. If they haven't done the quizzes, they don't get into the lab. So for the first time in my 30-some-odd years of teaching this course, I really knew that they did the reading. They had to do the reading. And it's not all the same tests. Some people say, well, you know, after a while, a couple of people are going to take the test and share the answers with everyone else. No, because I created, 4 to 1. So, for 10, there are 10 question quizzes, and there's about 40 or 50 questions for each one of those quizzes. So now they have to do that. They have to watch the videos. They can't possibly answer the questions if they didn't see the videos. I might say, what color shirt was I wearing in that video? No, I was thinking of doing that, but I didn't. I didn't do that. But students are very resourceful, and sometimes they may say, "Hey, yes, go ahead."
I just wanted to ask, how long did it take to videotape those 81 clips?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months. Obviously, I wasn't doing it every day,
right.
But 6 months it took me to create the course.
And who does the videotaping?
Well, depending on what department you're from, okay? If you're in a department who has engaged in this and has instructional designers or people that help you to do that, I had she's right there, okay? And she made it clear to me that she wasn't there to do it for me. She was there to give me guidance and help, right? That she was not going to do it. So I had to learn the video software, which Camtasia, and I did have BSauce. Anybody from BSauce here? Okay, BSauce has a professional studio.
Yes.
Andrew Roberts said, Tom, I'll do all your videotaping. But the problem with that is that he wanted to videotape me doing the lecture without videotaping my slides at the same time. And I said, no, I need to engage. I'm not going to feel the passion. It's bad enough I can't see the students. I got to imagine them, all right? If I'm not seeing my slides when I'm talking about something and I can't point to something, then this is not going to be good. So I did the first lecture with him, and I said, thanks a lot, but no. So I created a studio at home, that looked half decent with a curtain in the back, and it just made it look nice. Bought a better camera, and I had the department buy me a better camera and a microphone and all that stuff. And they were done at home. That way I could do it my own time, kind of like the students like to do it when they want to do it. I didn't want to have to be controlled, and it was fine.
Now, when you say you used your own video camera at home, were your slides behind you or online?
I'm going to show you that, but Camtasia, what happens is when you're using a software like Camtasia, and you turn and it starts recording, it records you in one line, it records your voice, and it records your slides all together. After you do that, then you got to go back and decide what you want the students to see. You want them, do you want them to see just your slide? Do you want them to see your slide and you? And I'm going to show you some examples of that. You know, several of our colleagues around the campus who have done a flipped classroom or blended are not using a camera, and I think that's a big mistake. And I really believe, you know, if over 60% of communication is nonverbal, I think they're missing something when they're not seeing you, and it makes it better. And the students say it's like having you home with me, you know. And you know, I don't see my students for the first 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks, they're watching me. We're not engaged in the lab, you know. So when they come in and I introduce myself, and they say, "Oh, we know you." They've been watching enough of you, so they really feel like they know you. And so I thought I was going to hate this. I really thought that when I got out of the classroom, what I loved about teaching was being in the classroom and seeing the faces and seeing them understanding and everything else. When I started doing the videos, at first it was uncomfortable looking at nothing, you know, looking at the camera. Then all of a sudden, I really, in my mind's eye, I could see those students. I could see them. And it wasn't a problem anymore, you know. And plus, you know, after you've done this, after the 6 months, after you've got it, you've got it. Unless your curriculum changes so much, and in the forensic science community, even though CSI makes you think it's constantly changing, it really isn't. You know, it really isn't changing like that. So now I've now settled down where it used to be 2 days a week, you know, 2 hours and 45 minutes twice a week. Now it's one time for 2 hours. So now I'm starting to get my personal time back because of it. Have students watch the videos? That was another big problem. How do we know they watched them? And again, the quizzes are very simple. I don't have I get rid of the midterms and finals. No midterms and finals, because I never felt that they were a measurement of what they really understood in the class. You know, so now every week they take 2 quizzes. And with Camtasia, with Canvas, they know what their grade is all the time. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, is there a university requirement for finals or
No, I thought there was, and I thought I was going to have to get a special thing. No, there is not. Oh. You have to be able to tell them up front what it is. No, I really thought so, and I said, oh, now I got to go through that hoop, and there was no hoop to go through. Okay. Is that a good thing? I think it's a good thing. All right. Examples of how to use. Okay. So video introduction to your course. So this is the beginning of my course. This is the first time they're going to see this experience. And this, by the way, all this music and all this stuff, that's part of Camtasia. You don't have to go find where to get that. There's different samples. And this is just PowerPoint slides that I created that I had that I used in the classroom anyways.
Welcome to CCJS 320 Introduction to Criminal.
I should be more excited than I am. That was the first one.
I've been working on. My name is Tom Moriello. I'm your instructor. I have been the instructor of this course since its inception.
Okay, stop
back
talking.
In 1980.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to present this new version.
Okay, good. All right. So, you know, my son's in the AV business, and he said, Dad, you got too much crap behind you, and the lens doesn't know where to, because that's all my books were back there. He said the lens doesn't know what to focus on. So he said, put curtains or something behind you. So wherever you do this, just put something behind you that's solid, so the lens will focus on you. But anyways, so this is how I decided to start it. Now, when I go to my next slide, I want them to see me as much as possible. And about that size is good enough, all right? But there are times when I want them focusing on what I'm saying, not looking at my slides and daydreaming. So then they just see me. And all that gets done, that's the editing process that you learn. It's really not that difficult after you've done it 81 times. 81 times about 5. Because you know the other thing? You know when you're doing lectures live, you say it, you know, I wonder if that's really right or not. You know, yeah, well, you know, all I have to do is say I didn't say that. You know, you weren't listening. But when you're recording yourself, you gotta get it right. You know, I've been teaching this course for 34 years, and there was some things I was saying that I had to check to make sure it was right, you know, because they were gonna be checking. Oh, they're gonna check everything, you know? So I had to force me to make sure that what I was saying was accurate now like it was 34 years ago when I was saying it, you know?
Were there ever any issues with a student's computer not being able to handle or?
There was some problems near the beginning, and 99.9% of the time they had an Apple. They had a Mac, okay? And I wish they'd take the Macs and throw them the hell out of here. I'm sorry. Well, I'm simply saying that because all I can say to you is, I'm a non-technical person. Every time there's a problem, it's a Mac. So you tell me. I mean, I'm a forensic scientist, okay? I look for what's wrong, all right? And if I see there's a problem, if a certain person commits a crime all the time, I think he's the person who committed the crime, all right? So, but I mean, I'm answering her question, all right? I'm answering her question. And most of the time, the student has a Mac, and I'll just say, shut it down and try it again, and all of a sudden, it's fine. So.
We had that problem with a Camtasia thing that we used, which is why I asked.
Yeah. In a couple of times, couple of videos, we recently, I have somebody now in criminal justice who puts in the videos for me, and it was real small. You couldn't see the full screen. Some people saw a full screen, some people only saw it small. I said, Rebecca Johnson, I said, Rebecca, I don't know what's wrong. Make it go away. I don't care how you do it, just make it go away. And she made it go away, so that's fine. But these are some of the things. Now, this laptop is a notebook. I can write on the screen and you can see it. And I used to do that in the classroom. I tried to make sure that the things I did in the classroom I could do on these videos. For example, this is a simple slide. This is an evidential pyramid where I'm talking about if I was looking for a certain car out on this campus, and I said it was a 2010, let's say there's 500 of them. If I said it was a Jaguar, that brings it down to 100. And so this is just an example of what they hear.
And of the blue vehicles out there, half of them are gray. There are several different sub-models of the XCAT, and
so again, I'm trying to make them feel like they're still in that room, and that there's no real big difference. I can put a slide up like this. This is a PowerPoint slide, and I can write on it.
The one on the left here, you can see that you have these ridges that move towards the left, and then over here you have ridges that move to the right.
So you don't lose any of that capability. I'm just going to, that's basically the same thing. This one here, this one, this is now, if you show a video clip in your classroom, how do you do that here? Very simple. Here's a slide, and I want to show them a video clip.
Why don't you watch this and tell me if this helps you to understand?
Mom, you just asked me out again. Oh my God, this is day number 3. Are you gonna let it get to 7 days?
No, I think that would be a bad idea. And I know something about bad ideas. I'm telling you, Juice, she's screwing around behind your back. And if I were in your Bruno Mars, I wouldn't stand for it. Another Mai Tai?
So, I mean, the same way you would show a video, that becomes part of, so that is a separate, what's that thing? June, what do you call the separate, the bands? What is it?
Separate track.
Tracks, yeah, that becomes a separate track. This one became really difficult. I have several videos that are created to stop and have discussion. And I'm saying, okay, how are we going to do this? And this was not easy because our folks, we were having trouble figuring out how to do that. But this is a rape investigation. She's playing the role of a rape victim, and I stop it, and then you see what happens.
He put it next to my face. And, then he raped me. He raped you. Yes. He did.
Okay, be careful for a statement that a victim would make like, quote, he raped me.
I wanted the students to still see the video. I didn't want it to go away. I wanted to make sure they knew where they were, and then I wanted to add something. So I talked for about 5 minutes, I go away, and the video continues. And I thought that was really important for me, and it works out pretty well. I haven't had any complaints about how the slides and the videos are working from the students. And you know, they'll tell you. They have no problem telling you at all. This is, we did an exercise in the classroom. WUSA Channel 9 in Washington came in without my students knowing about it, and we had a crime happen in the classroom without them knowing about it, and then we talked about what did you see kind of a thing. Again, you can't, if they're home, we can't do that, but we can use this video, and this is what they see.
Okay.
And then they interview the different students in the same place who saw the same thing, and he was white, he was black, he was tall, he was short, he was fat, he was skinny. It's just unbelievable. Eyewitness testimony is the worst evidence that we present in the courtroom, and it gets in every time, which is always intriguing. I have a webcast show every week called ForensicWeek.com. There are certain shows where I have guests, forensic scientists from around the world talk about certain aspects. I've integrated 6 of them into the class, so you know, they have to see that, and the quiz questions are integrated in there also. All right, so that's Camtasia. This is what Camtasia is. Again, this is each one of the tracks. You know, and I tell you, after a while, it gets really, it's actually fun after you really understand how to do it. It's very frustrating when you want to do a simple thing and you don't know how to do it, you know, and you waste a weekend and then you call up June and she says, oh, you press this button. You know, I would have, you know, that's what I wasted. I wasted 4 hours trying to find it myself.
20-minute rule. You never take more than 20 minutes to solve.
Oh, you're telling me that now? Okay. All right. Thank you very much for telling me that, Deb. Appreciate that, Deb. All right. So this is my studio at home. You know, I wanted the audio and video to be as best as possible. I mean, this is a professional microphone, but it's only $100, you know, and it's the departments, you know, you know, the video, whatever. And that's I tried to keep the same shirt on, so there was no big changes. And so if I had to add or change something, I know it wouldn't look like it didn't match. I do my webcast show here too, so I live downstairs in my basement. My wife wonders if I'm still there sometimes.
For you say you have them doing quizzes on the lectures. Are you using Camtasia's in?
No, I'm not using.
So you're using the Canvas.
I'm using Respondus,
okay.
And then we're putting them in Canvas. Yes. Canvas, you know, as much as I'm not, you know, I'm always yelling at Canvas. Canvas integrated this pretty well. The biggest problem I have is when you're trying to communicate to the students what they need to do from day to day, from week to week. There's too many different places in Canvas that put the same information, and it's confusing the students. It's a really bad problem, and I don't know how to fix it yet. You know, when June saw my course and I thought I was done, she says, "Where's your Read First document?" I said, "Well, what is a Read First document?" You know, she says, "You got to give the student one place to start at each week," and I did that, and I thought it made it easier, but I'm finding students sometimes are confused. They can go to the calendar, you know. But of course, you could tell them, you could look them right in the face and tell them, you know, you have to stand up now, you know. And then you send them an email or text them and say, stand up, you know. They still say, did you want me to stand up, you know? So that's kind of crazy. So So these are the elements of doing the videos, and again, it took 6 months, but I found it got easier and easier. Then that's the other thing. You know, people say, okay, Camtasia, so you record it, it's done. Oh no! After you've recorded it, then you have to do the editing. Then you got to publish it. Publishing it means something like it's got to go someplace else. It compresses and does all these things. It takes hours to do if it's a big thing, you know. Then it's got to stream somewhere, you know. So it ultimately gets into Canvas, you know. So you know.
So you're hosting in Canvas rather than storing them like in...
No, we're storing them in what do you call it? Something duck.
They're on the streaming server. Okay.
Yes.
And then you're linking to them from...
Yes, yes. And the students say they're getting it quickly. They're not waiting for these videos or anything else. They're getting them right away. So unless they have an Apple, then there's a problem. All right. Okay. So advantages: scheduled video. Last spring when we had weather problems, not a problem for us. I sent an email. Excuse me, just because you're home and you're not on campus and the campus is closed, that does not mean that CCJS 320 has stopped. So I require them to continue to do. Now, because they couldn't come into the lab that week, I flipped a module around, you know, said no problem, you know, we're going to do this module now, so you don't lose any time with a blended learning. Yes?
We had a conversation about that 2 days ago where we were talking about being online and inclement weather. And I kind of thought it was the call of the faculty member, you just have to cover that in your syllabus. But one of the instructors said it's university policy, if the university is closed, no courses go.
That's a bunch of crap.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you what the but so if you have students who know policy, they could push back.
Okay, well
I think it's
then
policy
you all,
side.
somebody in the IT arena, you know, who's creating, has got to fix that, you know, because
Not our policy.
well, yeah, but you have to. The thing is, somebody has to influence that. I mean, the bottom line is the weather's bad. I'm from Boston. I used to travel to school with big boots and everything else. So we hear it's going to snow when we cancel around here, you know. But my point is, the school is closed because you can't come on campus. You don't need to come on campus. So I never had any students complain.
And that's good.
You know, obviously, you know, all you need is one student to complain, and all of a sudden it'll be. But I think that's crazy.
I was surprised.
You know, but you know, bottom line is they're paying for this, all right. And if you want me to cut out a big hunk of the semester because of a policy, I can do that. But that, you know, why would they want to do that? I mean, why would they admit to wanting to do that? Okay, videos viewed on demand by, again, the students love being able to do this when they want to do it. Now, I did not want to I do not open the quizzes all week long because I was afraid people would start taking the quizzes and then sharing that information with everyone else. So the first semester, I only opened it for 24 hours before the lab class. They really complained about that. I said, okay, I'll give you 48 hours. That's it. All right? Because if they have a problem with the question or whatever and they want to talk to me, hey, I got it wrong and I don't think it's wrong for this reason, all that stuff, well, I don't want to talk to you about it right now because everyone else is listening and sharing. So I'm really sensitive to that. The integrity of the course I felt was one of the most important things. And that was one of the criticisms that I got from my colleagues who don't want to do this, saying, you know, you have no control, you don't know what they're doing. Who ever thought, just because they were in the classroom, that they were paying attention to anything we were saying? You know, I'm a forensic hypnotist. I know you can be looking at me with your eyes open and be in an altered state of consciousness someplace else. So, I mean, the fact that we think that if you're in the room that you're engaged is just not valid, you know. So, so that one's a good one. The key has been that all the students I know now are spending more time at home in my course than they ever did before, you know, and they don't really have a choice. And they really, in the summertime, it really was even more difficult because you're trying to put this into a 6-week course. They were watching a lot of stuff, but they're not complaining. They like it. I asked them, please tell me what's good, what's bad. How do you want me to change it? Tell me. because I'm willing to do anything. And they say, no, we like it. In fact, we did it, the BSOS asked if they could do an analysis, and I have a copy of the independent survey done of the students of the first semester, if anybody wants to see it. Dr. Ryan from psychology. Yeah, he's the one that did it for Dr. Russell, who actually said, do you mind? I said, no, not at all. Because if it's not working, I need to know. It's my course. I created this course in 1980, and I don't want it to be bad because of something, and it's not. So now it's a 50-50. You know, they come into the class, they've listened to me, they come in, and now we used to do things in the lab, and it wasn't graded. So now I've created rubrics, and all the things we do in the laboratory now that demonstrates whether they understood what they listened to at home is now graded. You know, 3 if they get the right answer, 2 if they did it correctly but got the wrong answer, and 1 if they're just breathing. I give them a 1. And if they're not there, they get a 0. But I have found that to be helpful also. So I'm only spending 2. It used to be 6 hours a week for a 3-credit course. Now it's 2 hours, in class 2 hours. And I was not advised exactly how many hours it had to be. There's no policies in reference to a blended course and how much time you're supposed to spend in the room. So I just made it up. And right now that looks pretty good. Yes?
So I'm totally confused. This is a 3-credit course.
3-credit course, yes.
And then, so what you're saying is that 50% is the time they spend at home.
At home watching my videos.
And then 50%, so 22 hours
Yeah.
in the classroom.
In the classroom. Demonstrating their knowledge of what they learned at home. For example, if they learned at home, they listen to the lectures on how to read fingerprints and how to analyze fingerprints, then we go in and we actually do it.
So, but then you say 50% of the video lectures, do they cover 22 hours or more or less? Or
Well, it depends on how fast they do it. Okay. Yeah, it depends. You know, it's you know, I guess the percentages are not necessarily talking about hours because I don't know how many hours they're spending. That's a good point. But I can tell you, they're spending a whole lot more hours in my class than they ever did before, and nobody's complaining.
But then you're sorry,
Yeah.
just-
No, it's all right. It's all right.
So your sense is that you are giving them a minimum 22 hours of lecture at home, or do you care at all about the time?
Well, I can tell you, every one of my videos identifies how much time the video is to watch. All right, so I mean, I have never counted them. Every module is a little bit different, but I got to tell you, it's probably a lot more, because not only are they watching my regular lectures that I used to do, because I sat there and did the lecture. As you know, some people said, why don't you just do it in a classroom and just record it? It's not the same, you know. I needed to talk to them in a global way, not an individual course group of people who was in there that day, you know. Not only are they watching that, they're watching my ForensicWeek.com videos. If I see that there's something on the news, for example, I was on WTOP this morning talking about the UVA abduction. And now if I said something that was worth listening to and I wanted my students to pay attention to it, then I would send that to them and say, hey, listen to this, you know. And
So the university doesn't have any policy that says you have to exactly spend the 45 hours?
no.
That was my concern, I guess.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, maybe you've said this, but let's say you normally give a 1-hour lecture. Do you now take that material and do you divide it into shorter modules?
Yes.
Do you have
Yes.
certain-
Anywhere from 5 minutes to 35 minutes.
Okay, so your max is 35 minutes.
Well, only because that was mine. June kept saying, I don't want any more than 15 minutes. And I'm saying,
What's a general good time? I know it
No
varies.
more than 15 minutes.
No more than 15. And do you
Yeah.
do
But-
quizzes
but-
after the 15 or after 3 modules of 15 minutes each and then you do your quiz?
Is it a summative quiz of all of the lecture videos you've done?
for that, there might be 8 lectures for that week.
Yeah.
And they have to watch all 8 lectures, then they take the quiz.
Okay, got it.
Okay? And the reason why I don't agree with this 15-minute thing is because they can stop it and start it anytime they want. So if they want to stop it in the middle of a 30-minute video, they can stop it. So what's the difference? If I separated it, there were a couple of times when I didn't want to separate it because, it just seemed like I needed to keep going, And I could have figured out how to do it, but I didn't think it was necessary because, again, if they wanted to stop it, they could. But I mean, a lot of them are 5-minute, 10-minute long, short quiz. I'll tell you, you really start dissecting what you've done. I mean, again, I've been teaching this course since 1980, all right? And I've never really reflected exactly what I was saying and how, and when you do this, oh man, you're reflecting everything. Yes, and then I'll take you, Deborah.
Just one quick question, the ones that are filmed, your lectures that are 5 to 35 minutes, does that include video clips or not?
Yes, no, that includes the video clips that I would put in there or anything else, yes. Now there were, but there were other video, for example, I have a case study. I did a show on Discovery on a homicide case. So I use that as a case study for one of the lab exercises. So I took that hour-long Discovery documentary and broke it up literally broke it up when the commercial came on. I broke it up in commercials, So it ended up to be 6 videos. Now that's over and above my regular video, my regular lectures. But the videos that I use within my lectures that includes that. Yes, Deb.
Well, just 2 quick things. One, I really appreciate your reflection that anytime you're going to sort of do a course redesign, whether you're trying to flip it or blend it or just do some additional pieces, the chance to rethink how you've been teaching for a while, particularly because most people will choose a course they've been teaching a while that they're really comfortable with to kind of start to translate because they've already got the content part down, they've already got the pieces. So I appreciate that. Even that effort to think about it improves.
Oh yeah, I was doing some things that I've just changed. I said, oh my, I can't believe I did it that way. But it worked all right, I guess. Okay,
and
thank you.
The other piece that sometimes, one of the reasons we will sometimes say go with the shorter pieces is depending upon where those videos are hosted, not on streaming because that's not a sort of a podcast server, but if they are podcast kinds of videos, students can then download them and listen to them locally rather than having to be connected to the internet. And so that's why we always say, well, maybe the students are listening to them on the bus or while they're working out at the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
small
And I mean, I couldn't do that. A lot of us couldn't do that. But again, they learn different than us, and we got to accept that, and that's fine. People get upset over that. Why? What's the difference? I got to tell you, I have had more student interaction since I flipped the class than I ever did. I used to go into lecture halls and talk to myself. Now, because they're coming back, and now they have to demonstrate what they heard me say, and they got 1,000 questions. They're coming in early. They want to sit down, and the homework assignment. I used to give homework assignments from a course packet that I still use. Okay, but we start the homework assignment in the lab. All right? Because what they were doing in the past is I'd give them I'd lecture to them in the classroom. They would go home. I'd give them a homework assignment. If they understood it, they did it well. But if they didn't, they just did a poor job and didn't get a good grade. And that was the end of it. It was over. Now they started here, so they can ask me any question. In fact, when they go to bring it in the next week, I'm here, I stay all day on Monday, even though class doesn't start at 12, and I'll say, look, if you didn't understand it, don't do it. Come in, let's sit down, and we'll go over it. And sometimes I let them use a piece of an instrument in the lab that makes it a little bit easier for them that they couldn't have done at home, etc. So I'm engaging, I'm talking with them more than I ever did, and I'm very surprised at that. We already talked about the fact that when you're doing these videos, you gotta be accurate, because let me tell you something. You know what's really great? I've had students argue over the answers they got wrong in a quiz, and I'll get an email. I listened to your video 5 times over and over and over, and I never heard you say that answer. I said, if you listen to me for 5 times, I'm giving you credit for that question. I don't care what you think. they're watching it over. I'm telling you, it's interesting. They'll fight over a point in a quiz. And that's okay, because I listen to it and I'll say, look, that is wrong, and this is why it's wrong, but I liked what you were thinking, and I'm going to give you the point, you know. But I've changed. But you know, one of the things I learned, I used all the test bank questions from the textbook. Oh, they were terrible. I just assumed they were right, and I just threw them in the test bank. Oh my God! The author of my textbook is a colleague of mine from New Jersey, and he's written most of the forensic science textbooks out there. He wrote, right? And I'm saying, I call him up and say, you are causing me more problems. And he says, please tell me, give me every one. I says, okay, we'll talk about how we're going to do that, you know, and see if I get a share of all that you're selling, you know. But so that's really important. You really need to consider that. Creating the blend. Now, I got to tell you something. I retired in February of 2012. You know, prior to that, I was working full time. I was traveling all over the place. I was teaching 2 nights a week. If I was not retired, there's no way I would have done this. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And there is no full-time faculty who can do all the work. You're not going to do it. You don't have it. I mean, that's not what you're here for, you know. So your departments really need to take the responsibility and either hire a contract instructional designer or integrate one into their staff. Now I got to tell you, what CCJS did is we had a person who was just personally interested. You know, she had some good background. She knew a lot. I'm very surprised. You know, what's her name? Rebecca Johnson. It's amazing to me how I can bring something to her, and if she doesn't know the answer, she'll find it right away. And so we're lucky to have her, but that's not her job. Yeah, we're trying to move her into that, so if other faculty members want to do it. But I'll tell you, one of the people, Brendan something or other, who's one of our faculty, he left and went to Ball State. And he sent me an email. He says, Tom, you wouldn't believe the support we have here to do the blended learning, where we had no support in CCJS. He's all excited because he wanted to do it too, but he didn't have the time. So it's fun if you got nothing else to do. Like every day is Saturday for me. Every day is Saturday for me, you know. And I mean, I do other things. It's not, you know, but I can decide every day what I want to do. And this became, for 6 months, I got to tell you, I have a forensic consultant company on the side. I just kind of put that aside because I needed to focus on this. And I just harassed the hell out of June for 6 months. And so the quizzes, to ensure that they're watching, Respondus, which is the software. And so I created the questions, gave them to Rebecca, my person, and she had to integrate them in there and, you know, make it happen, you know. And then Canvas, you know, they have 15 minutes to take the test. So as soon as they start, they have 15 minutes to do it, and then it locks it. You know, there are times when students will call up and said, "Oh, I started it, and then something happened, and I couldn't get back to it, and it closed on me." And you know, if they say it one time, we open it up again for them, which is really easy, etc. Yes.
So you were saying that if you're teaching full time, that you just don't have the extra time to do this, and you should work with an instructional designer. If you're doing the course content and you're sort of the mastermind of the course, what is the instructional designer doing that's saving you time? Because you still have to do the lectures and the
First of all,
segmenting.
okay, we've taught our content in a certain way in the classroom. Okay, now if this was completely online, then you got to have an instructional designer because you can't teach it in the same way. When it's blended, it's not that difficult. So I was able to do most of what I did in the classroom on the video. So if you did a blended, okay, what the instructional designer would do for you is they will do all the editing for you. So all you would have to do is get in front of the camera and videotape yourself doing your lecture, and you're moving your slides just like you do in the lecture hall. You do it just like you were doing it there. You're just in front of a camera. Then you would hand it over to the instructional designer, and then they would make it look pretty. They would put music in the beginning and do nice, go from one slide to another. They can do all these fancy things. They would do all that. Then they would actually go to the next step, publish it. come back to you, say, okay, does this look good, okay with you? You want to make any changes? You want to add anything? No, it's good. Then they would publish it and then put it into the streaming whatever that makes it, and then goes in there. Yeah, and that took a lot of time, the editing stuff.
So I'll comment on that though, just to kind of clarify at the campus level, when you have the learning technologies folks, and we have several learning technologies, instructional designers, and we have instructional support technologists, and we do much of that, but DivIT does not foster production. So at that level, an instructional designer is going to lead you through process, brainstorming, coming up with activities that work engagement into sort of the online environment, teach you or a designee how to use the resources and tools. But we are not staffed to do production. So when Tom talks about somebody who's going to do post-production work, he's saying if your department
Yes, oh yeah.
or college has somebody closer to him. That's really something that's missing at the university level. And we know there's kind of this gap because faculty don't want to have to do post-production work. You can hire a GA, or maybe the department can hire a talented GA to do sort of that media production component of it. Because that's where the time sink really is, after
Right.
we figured out how
And-
to capture it.
And I don't think the university has taken it. The president keeps telling us we've got to be doing this. Everybody up here is telling us, and they have provided us with no infrastructure. There's no infrastructure to do that, And of course, it's easy to say it's up to your department. Well, okay, so the department needs to understand it. And what is it that I need to budget for, and how much is this going to cost me, and which ones should I do? You need to have, an instructional designer can come into your department and look at all your courses and say, that one's a good one for a blended learning. This one maybe not at this point in time. This is the one we would handle first, and then integrate. You don't do it just to do it. You do it because it makes sense. And it's made sense for my course, because we have our own crime lab in Marymount Hall. Just yesterday, we signed off on a very expensive forensic comparison microscope that I was able to con people into giving me the money for because of this blended course. I said, look, you asked me to blend my course into integrate and be able to get these students to demonstrate their knowledge. I need a comparison microscope so they can demonstrate it, because right now I can't do that. And all of a sudden I started getting money, that I didn't have. It's really good because we're really engaging. These are the things I used to get from students 25 years ago. We would have these conversations in the classroom. That went away. When they were holding, now that they're holding their phones in their hands and everything else in their laptops, they stopped thinking that way. Critical thinking, as we know, is vital. In the law enforcement arena, the people that we're hiring right now to be agents, we're finding have no critical thinking skills. They're smart. They're as smart as they ever were. They just don't have critical thinking skills. So that's just an example of that. This is, again, Ryan Curtis did the course evaluation. Bottom line is, overall, the students were really happy with it. There was no real negative thing. We still have, I think there's about 5%, if I had to guess, this is purely a guess, 5-10% of the students still like the traditional lecture. They're the ones that walk around with 3x5 index cards in their hands and like to memorize stuff and not understand a darn thing. Those there. So lessons learned, students are in their comfort zone at home. Video lectures can be viewed multiple times. Video lectures get dissected by students, so you really, really need to be prepared for that. Canvas discussion tab can be used. I found that students were sending me emails about the lectures and not sending it to everybody. And so I said, look, if you want to argue about a question, I don't want 18 people complaining about the same question. So we created these discussion boards. Then guess what? I had to get rid of the discussion boards because the people who would wait to the last second to take the test were reading the discussion boards. By the time they were ready to take the test, they had a lot of benefit. So I stopped that particular discussion board. Now I have an IT discussion board. If they can't see a video or they're having a problem, they go to a discussion board about IT problems. Rebecca, when it goes in, Rebecca Johnson gets it and she deals with it right away. So I don't have to deal with that. So having that person, again, Rebecca is not from their office, from CCJS. Yeah, instructional. I knew about instructional designers simply because in my job with NSA, I did a lot of training, and I used to, it used to cost me $600,000 to have a 2-day training course put online. $600,000. Really? Oh yeah. Seriously, I pay, of course, the federal government pays, it's ridiculous, but I mean, I paid $600,000 to have a 2-day course done. That was going to thousands of people worldwide. So when I was done, I didn't have to send instructors all over the world. So when you put all that money together, it's kind of okay to spend $600,000, believe it or not. And we thank you. These, for those of you who haven't seen this, I got to show you this. These are the nodes. Now that when we're in the lab or in the classroom for that short time, we do a whole lot more discussions, group discussions, etc. And the awful desks that are in most of the classrooms on this campus are just not conducive to that. This is a node by Steelcase. I was introduced to Steelcase at the agency that I worked because all NSA furniture actually is Steelcase furniture. They won this multi-billion-dollar contract. So I knew about Steelcase, and I called them up and said, I want to see that node chair you got. And I got them to give me, to borrow, 24 of them in the lab, and they are just phenomenal. The students can put everything that they bring in underneath. All right? And when they sit down, if they're all sitting towards you and you say, okay, let's break up into 4 groups, they just turn and move with their feet. They don't have to get up. They don't have to. I'm going to show you how easy it really is. So we're going to get rid of some of this crap. Do we still have classrooms with those in there? I remember at St. Joseph's Elementary School. That's what I used to have. So this is my lab, and these are my new chairs. They told me I could get any color I wanted, so I figured let me get the Maryland colors. So there's 24 students. They're all facing me, and I'm simply going to ask them to form 3 groups. Okay, everybody form groups. Wow. That's it. Okay, let's form a circle, please. Bam. I got a circle. I love that. I love that. I love that. What can I say? I just love that. I love that kind of stuff. So this is my course, online videos, reading and quizzes, the crime lab exercises. All the exercises that I used to do are now all graded. They're all with a specific rubric on what's expected of them for them to do that. Online webcast. I'm taking advantages. There's some great webcasts, mine, and there's others that the students now are not only just listening to, but they have to answer questions. In-class guests, I have a guest. I've had him ever since I started teaching back in 1977. He's my firearms guy. He comes in with like 90 different kinds of guns, from little anti-aircraft submachine guns to little 22 caliber one-shot headshot guns, and we actually videotaped him because I teach 3 sections of this now. Okay, before I used to teach a big course and break it down into 4. Now it's 3 separate sections, 24 in each section. Now it's 10 to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8. Now I can't ask my guests to come in here to do it 3 times. So for that particular day, I tell them it's going to be from 6 to 8:45. Those of you in the 6 to 8 people have to be there. They don't have a choice because that's their schedule. They can't say their schedule doesn't let them do it. The other 2, and they all want to come to see the live guns because we shoot the guns in the classroom and the whole bit. Blanks of course. But if they can't make it, they just watch the videos. that are on there. We do some criminal case studies, but one more thing, because of the blended learning, I've been trying to get real estate to build full-size crime scenes. Years ago on Knox Road, there used to be houses that the university owned, and they were all furnished houses, and they did different things in there. Like the family studies people used to have seminars in this furnished house, and I used to use it for crime scenes. Well, then they knocked down the houses, and I ended up having to build, I didn't build them, I had them built, 6 doll houses that we used for crime scenes. And from 1994 to last year, we used doll houses. Now, again, I use this whole idea, hey, excuse me, I did this blended learning flipped classroom thing. I want to build 3 full-size crime scenes, and I ended up getting 2 full-size rooms. I have an office and a bedroom in the basement of Marymount that is a full-size crime scenes. I have forensic dummies and a whole bit. And I now have a car parked in a state vehicle spot outside the building that has a body in the trunk, and that's the 3rd crime scene. So I find it easy to ask for things because I'm doing this new stuff. And you always throw that up at them, and it's hard for them to say no. So that's been the case. So that's one of the crime scenes up there. You can see the thing there, and these are the different cases we do. The Jean-Benet Ramsey case, the O.J. Simpson case, and a number of others that we do. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to be so loud. We got 2 minutes. Any questions? Let me just say to you that I'm at Marymount Hall, and if there's anything I can do, or if you want to sit down and chat about this at any time, or you want to see the Node chairs, I've had a lot of professors coming over just to see them. I had some French professor who said, "Can I run my class in your lab just to use?" And she did.
Are they big enough for a laptop?
Pardon me?
Are they big enough for the?
They are big enough for a laptop, and you can buy a special desk that has grooves for the laptop.
Wow.
But I don't need them to be using laptops anyway. So, but I mean, they're full-size desks, and they slide to the side, so you can actually slide it to the side and get up straight. And then so I tell you, I got football players. I've had a full-size football player sit down and be able to, as that thing comes in front of them, it moves forward if they need extra room. You know, I mean, he fit. He didn't look comfortable, but he fit. Yeah. But I think he's used to not being comfortable in some of the chairs. Anything else? Okay, back to you all. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.